Live with the KHive, episode 14. Check in with us.
Yo. My ghost space reading.
What's up, y'all? Carol, Marvel, Lou. Dandra just says, love y'all. Love you back. Calistine. Okay, gotta wait for where the YouTube people at? YouTube, Facebook, check in. Hey Deb, Facebook is here. Tiff.
While we waiting on some people to chime in, I don't know if y'all know, but a lot of us is trying to do these new emojis. So KHive, if y'all know, if you want to, it's just something fun to kind of do, and it kind of helps people understand what's going on. So if it's something positive, you see anything positive about Kamala, whether it be an article or a post, with KHive, we put these yellow hearts underneath everything for like positive stuff for Kamala. You see misinformation and you just see a bullshit ass article that needs to be disputed, you put the B. You put the B emoji so that people understand that we have to dispute the things that are being said. So yep, I'm starting to see some heart emojis show up in the chat now. So I'm glad y'all know. Reese, your mic is muted.
Okay, my bad. My mic was muted. Y'all following directions very well. That is what's up. Shout out to y'all.
So yellow heart, positivity, share all of that. And then when we got to do what we got to do, child, then you put the B.
Boom. It's simple. I feel like it's very simple. Okay, we have everybody checked in. Shout out to my hubby. He said YouTube is here, so I have to give him an extra special shout out for watching. Okay, Drew, go ahead, take it away.
We're gonna take it away, y'all. We're gonna take it away. So it's another episode of Live with KHive. You know, we stay live even when it's all five of us. Shout out to Heather Rose Gold. She's in our heart doing her mother freaking thing, as always. I'm your host, Drew Comments. I love how I give the old school radio host introduction like it's 1991, but whatever. You gotta love it anyway. We do it for the culture. Right now, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna go around the panel so you understand we sipping on what our names are. If you haven't met us, but most of y'all know us very well, but it's all right. We love to reintroduce ourselves like Hov. I am sipping on Five Guys. What I actually did was fill this back in with some ginger ale. It's not soda, it's medicine, even though I'm not shit. But anyway, y'all know Black households, we don't call ginger ale. So moving on, we have Maya Contreras in the house. It was good with you.
Just drinking some tea and ready to talk tonight. I'm a little sleepy, so I'm going to wake up right now with some chai tea. I had a little wine beforehand. Then I'm going to have this, then I'm going to switch back to wine. So I'm ready.
You ready? You sure? All right. So you ready for a lot of things. You know, boy, ready to go out. Now, let's up. Oh, of course, we have the Sydney A. Repping from the state that is ill. That's a common reference, by the way. I'm going to let y'all know. Sydney, what's going on? What out, Joe?
It's me, your Destiny A, and we are back again with our 13th rendition of Live with the K.
Hey, Sydney, your audio is really, really bad.
Is it bad?
Yeah, just turn it. You might have to just cut that thing off. Your AirPods, or just reconnect them.
Here. All right.
We live. This is
bad, y'all. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we got
there
you.
We go.
We got you.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. I got a new MacBook. I'm out here. I'm a little rich, but it's giving me a little, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, guys. But
she got a bag, y'all.
Shout out to everybody tuning in right now. This is our 13th rendition of Live with the KHive. My name is Sydney A. for short, And this week, I wanted to shout out a small business, black woman-owned small business. As y'all know, I finally was able to get something done with these caterpillars on my face. And that is due to my esthetician here in Matson, Illinois. Her name is Pi. I will have all of her information on my website. But if you guys are on my Twitter page, if you guys want to, show some love and you guys are in the Chicago area, Pi is awesome. She is 26 years old and she is a small business owner. And she is actually going to be the subject of my topic tonight. Tonight I'm sipping on a little light right now, just a little bit of water. I'm waiting on my other ingredients to come, so we may have a little bit of vodka in the middle of the segment. But other than that, we are here, and I also want to give a good shout out to my girl Megan Thee Stallion. You are in our prayers tonight, my love. If you guys are not aware, Megan Thee Stallion, the creator of Savage, that was used in a lot of Kamala's memes. Was injured a couple of days ago in a shootout. So we're keeping her in our thoughts. I just bought some of her merch. I'm trying to, support our girls. I am a hip hop DJ. So Megan, your heart, my heart is with you, baby. If you're watching this, if your peoples are watching this, we are with you, and we wish you a great recovery.
No cap. And of course, we got my boy Kenny up in the house. What's going on with you, man? You got the baby father baby shower shirt on, bro. Man, what's good?
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Too Raw, Too Real. So what's up? Hey, KHive. I am just chilling like a villain, sipping on some pink Moscato from, I was about to say Liberty Mutual. Lord Jesus. From Liberty Creek. $9 wine. We on the budget over here. Y'all already know we keep it real. Y'all have. Let's get into it.
Most definitely. No, for real. If I find myself in a situation. I'm just gonna say, if I find myself in a situation where my entanglements get out of hand, I'm probably gonna be wearing that top to the baby shower. Moving on. I'm playing with you, dog. It's all good. And of course, we got Black Woman Views. Reese in the house. You know what I'm saying? Go Bruins. What's happening?
Yes, go Bruins. And actually go UC system. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but there is a Black person over the UC system. So shout out to him. I am doing the Champagne of Beers, Miller High Life. Just taking it easy. I have a virtual party to get to after this. So I'm going to go hard a little bit later. But cheers, y'all. Happy Friday.
Cheers, y'all. Happy Friday. Love it, man. Y'all got some great class.
And it looked good, Breezy. Lord God, it looked like the commercial. Y'all see themselves at the top.
Come on, hey girl, if we should that commercial, hey, for a bag, go ahead and do it. But listen, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. COVID-19 continues to be an issue. As a matter of fact, out here in California, Governor Gavin, excuse me, no disrespect, did order the re-shutdown of the state. Re-shutdown is a term, but it's appropriate in this particular sense. Just due to the outbreaks. The other day, we actually had 11,000 new cases in one day, which we shattered a record there. So it's still serious. It's still serious. Something we're taking very seriously. And in relation to that, what Kamala Harris has introduced is something called the COVID-19 Bias and Anti-Racism Training Act of 2020. This bill that she has actually interacted is actually her backing up her speech and actually in keeping with previous movements that she's made. But this particular bill is meant to address the racial and ethnic disparities that we have seen in the COVID-19, whether it's the outcomes, whether it's the infections, whether it's the deaths, and that sort of regard. As a matter of fact, the actual bill itself is aimed to create $200 million grant program for hospitals and other healthcare providers, whether state, local, tribal, and even territorial public health departments, medical and other health professional training schools, nonprofits to establish or improve bias and anti-racism training programs for healthcare providers treating COVID-19 patients, and really for any individuals participating in other response efforts like contact tracing and resource allocation. But it also prioritizes funding for entities and communities with high racial and ethnic disparities in COVID-19 infections. even when it comes to hospitalization, ICU admission, death rates, you name it. As a matter of fact, what we noticed was that in the state of Michigan, Louisiana, states like Louisiana and such, we saw Black and brown populations due to or because of the remnants of prejudice and racial and prejudice practices have been more prone to be infected and actually more likely to die. As a matter of fact, 2.3 times more likely to die overall from COVID-19 than our counterparts not of as much melanin as we are. But in any regard, what Kamala Harris decided to do was introduce this bill to address some of those disparities, just to make sure that we level the playing field. And even with that, it also requires the Secretary of Health and Human Services to collaborate with healthcare professionals, policy experts specializing in addressing bias and racism within the healthcare system, and community-based organizations to develop requirements for evidence-based ongoing bias and anti-racism training. So this is where her head is, moving forward with that. I want to mention this just because when we talk about Kamala Harris and her ability to see, and I've always mentioned this, I did a video earlier to a similar bill or a bill that's addressing something. We're going to talk about that just after this, where I said it was the least of these, that she has the ability to always look out for the most vulnerable. As much as she has done for people, and I always think, I'll say it again, Reese, thank you so much for what you did as far as her accomplishments and finding little things, and that's 50 things, and that's not even all of it, y'all. With all of that, Reese left some stuff out. So even with all of that, it's the overall picture is very, very. She's predictable in the way, if you understand what her target is, she only has a handful of targets, which are the least and most vulnerable. Those are the people that she tries to protect. The predators are the ones she goes after. It's very, 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 very predictable. However, at least in the area. Now, the specifics of what she does is hard to guess because her mind is always 10 steps ahead of everybody else. But as far as even with this, having the foresight to look at this particular situation in this bill, and specifically to not only require, okay, we'll just throw some money out there and it's allocated, but to also specifically say that we need to collaborate, or excuse me, it requires that the Secretary of Health and Human Services collaborates with healthcare professionals and also policy experts in order to make sure that, they want to make sure that they have community-based, and they work with community-based organizations as well to develop requirements for evidence-based ongoing bias and racism training. Data collection. Anytime it's gathering data, gathering numbers based on these are the results, this is what we're working with. Okay, now we take that and we apply it. This is what Kamala Harris does with her. This is what she does, whether it's addressing police misconduct, whether it's addressing, and we saw that with open justice here in California, or in this case, COVID-19, as it relates. As a matter of fact, she did the same thing, very similar to with her Racial and Ethnic Disparities Act that she unveiled a little bit earlier. Had a wonderful video on that. The Racial and Ethnic Disparities Act, what that actually did was also help address issues with, again, Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force Act, So it literally allows or it provides weekly resource allocation recommendations to FEMA and Congress for that. And I'm actually going to have Reese join in on this as well, because the details of these are very similar, even though they address different things. This is specifically as far as the COVID-19 bias and anti-racism training is for one portion. The Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force Act is the mobilization based on data of help, the allocation of resources to the folks who need it the most. Now, I'll use the analogy of a flood when it comes to the Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force Act. When a city is flooded, certain areas are affected more than others. And so what you want to do is to make sure that it's not just a level even the allocation of funds, because some people don't need as much help as others. Some areas won't need as much help as others. And so what it is based on data collection, finding out who needs the most help, and then also making sure that that aid is sent to them in the right proportions. But Reese, what I do want to do, I want to take it to you specifically when it comes to the Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force Act. Kind of, if I can have you start real quick, and you can go wherever you want, but if I can have you start with the weekly allocation, or at least the recommendations to FEMA, and how, and I think there's how similar organizations as well, and how that's kind of helpful in the process.
Yeah, so the most important thing is not just meant simply to collect data. We know how with the Trump administration in particular, they have been enemies of transparency. Just this week, they stopped publishing data on hospitalizations. We know that there has been data that's been manipulated by Republican governors, and there are even more efforts to thwart data collection by the Trump administration. But with the data that we have, it's important that that data is acted upon. And that's really the crux of the Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force, because we've seen issues pop up, and this goes back to Kamala's work in terms of anti-racism, where Black people have had more trouble getting tested. So there are discrepancies, and even medical professionals even willing to administer tests. My sister actually recently had to get a test for COVID because a close person to her was exposed to it. And when she showed up at the testing facility, and this is in Atlanta, they ran out of tests. So when you have an outbreak or when you have the numbers spiking in areas in states like Georgia and particularly in Black areas like Atlanta, and they don't have the testing, then that's going to thwart people's ability to get treated. And luckily, thank God, my sister tested negative for COVID, but it's nerve-wracking. It's stressful and on top of itself to compound the already challenges that people have when they have to try to figure out how to get testing and people are out of testing. Also, you have issues with PPE because Donald Trump never invoked the Defense Production Act. We still have shortages of PPE. So what Kamala's Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force would do is it would make sure that these communities get testing, that get testing supplies. It would make sure that these communities get PPE. It would make sure that when vaccines become available, Lord willing, that they do become available, these communities would also get access to that. They would get a priority for that. And so it's never just enough to say, let's study the problem. It's what are we going to do with the information? And that's the key difference between what Senator Kamala Harris has proposed with this task force. And it's a recurring, like you said, Drew, weekly, it's a recurring task force to really be hands deep and involved with the response throughout the life of COVID. And this is something that would obviously apply to any kind of, pandemic or anything in the future. But a point that I wanted to make, going back to the anti-racism push, this massive investment that Senator Kamala Harris is pushing for in light of COVID. I don't know if you guys remember, when Kamala was accepting questions from people on Twitter, and I had posed a question to her, which she so graciously read. And I brought up the fact that in the question that she had been working on Black maternal mortality, and the kinds of biases and disparities that she had been long tackling is exactly the kind of things that that we're seeing in this COVID responses. So that's why I really want to highlight the Black maternal, it's actually called the Maternal Care Act, and her work around the Black Momnibus bill, or, slate of bills. And so Senator Kamala Harris was the first person in the Senate to ever introduce legislation specifically to tackle the Black maternal health disparity. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from childbirth. And it is not a socioeconomic issue, it is a race issue. And so the same kind of research that Kamala Harris did, she worked with Black Mamas Matter Alliance. She worked with the experts. She was very hands-on with this for an extended period of time. It wasn't like somebody slapped some stuff on a Post-it note and said, here, go out and recite these talking points. It was actually a very much research-based response to this crisis that has impacted women, from Serena Williams. Obviously, thank God she didn't die, but you had Serena Williams, you had Beyonce, you had other people who, even as rich as they are and as have access to the best healthcare, have experienced traumatizing and scary childbirth experiences because they're Black women, and Black women aren't believed as much. And so we point that out. And one of the things too with Kamala is she's deeply, deeply, deeply familiar with this issue. She's held town halls. She actually introduced the inaugural Black Maternal Health Week in 2018. That was the first time it had ever been introduced in the Senate. And Representative Congresswoman Alma Adams has been a champion of this on the House side. That was in 2018. So this year was the third year, and each year it gets bigger. But this year, the Black Momnibus Act, I mentioned that earlier, that was actually Kamala Harris leading on the Senate side of that, with Congresswoman Lauren Underwood and Congresswoman Alma Adams leading on the House side. And so this is something that she has dedicated years to. A couple of other points that I do want to make about it is that some of the provisions of her Maternal Care Act have actually passed in the House. There's not passed a complete bill, but items surrounding her implicit bias training. Again, bias is it's not about your socioeconomic status, it's about your race. And that's where these medical professionals need to have that training passed in the House already. So these are the kinds of things that are already being worked on. But, you know, Kamala Harris, she's recognized women like Amber Isaac, who died during this COVID crisis. And she understands that with her, like, for instance, her anti-racism bill that encompasses more than Black maternal health, but she also understands the intersection of Black maternal health and racism in the system as it relates to Black people in general. But she's, done work around Kira Johnson, who's also a Black mother who died in one of the bills in the Black Momnibus bill, is actually named after her. This year in February, she actually held a town hall with on a Black Maternal Forum in California before all this stuff started, with Dr. Nadine Burke Harris, who is the Surgeon General, the first ever Surgeon General of California. She's a Black woman, and she had, I don't know if you guys caught, where she did a IG Live with Allison Phoenix, gold medalist Allison Felix, about this particular topic. So this is not something that she is just kind of flash in the pan. It's fashionable right now to talk about it, and she has a very surface level understanding of it. It's something that she's really championed for years now, and she has the solutions. And like I said, it shows her dedication not just to Black mothers, but she's also mentioned the fact that there are discrepancies with Latino women, and with the Native American mothers as well, and with children, and the mortality rate with children. But this is something that she's deeply, deeply involved in. And I have 100% confidence in her that should she be on Joe Biden's ticket, this is an issue that we will see progress on once and for all under a Biden administration.
No cap, but no, for real, like what she does is, like you said, and she actually gets the federal agencies behind that, and to actually put action. Like even back to the REG TAC, I was going to call it that, Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force Act. One of my favorite parts of it is where they provide oversight and recommendations to federal agencies about how to disperse like COVID-19 relief funds. So it's not just a kind of, we'll let folks just kind of figure it out. Like, no, we'll actually recommend to the agencies, people with power. For instance, the Education and Stabilization Fund and the Paycheck Protection Program that was created under the CARES Act. So that in particular. So basically, they'll do that to address racial and ethnic disparities with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic. The other part is like the oversight and make sure it's actually being supervised. So it's the report to Congress on the structural inequalities preceding the COVID-19 pandemic and how they contributed to the racial and ethnic disparities, whether it's infection, hospitalization, death rates, the initial federal response to COVID-19 pandemic and its impacts on racial and ethnic disparities, infections, hospitalization, death rates, recommendations to combat racial and ethnic disparities, in future infectious diseases as well. So it's not just COVID-19 when we get the other ones, the latter ones as well, the other pandemics that come, just like President Obama said 5 years ago, it's on the way. Don't know what it's going to be called, but we got to be ready. So I think it's awesome, man. Y'all ain't on the Kamala chain. Y'all ain't with the KHive. You better get with it. Absolutely. For real. This is amazing. It's like, anyway, moving forward. Did anyone have any reaction?
Well, I just wanted to share like a personal story as it pertains to maternal health and how this anti-racist program training needs to actually be implemented. Especially, I get to speak on behalf of something that I've been through, but not necessarily me, but family member. So my sister, she was having issues and she had an ectopic pregnancy and they had to take her fallopian tube. So she kept complaining to the doctors after the surgery that she wasn't feeling well, but they sent her home anyway. Turns out that she was actually internally bleeding. And luckily, well, not luckily, she wound up fainting because she had lost so much to where, like, honestly, if they actually had taken her, her complaint seriously, she wouldn't have had to gone through that. She literally wound up fainting at her job on hours. So just imagine what that looked like. It's just ridiculous. So this is more than just something that you guys just hear stories from people, just because it's not personal to you. This is something that's affecting people every day. This is really important. So just imagine what people are going through right now as it pertains to COVID, when they're telling them they're not feeling well, or they say that, oh, well, I have symptoms, but they're like, we need to save these tests. You for some odd reason they feel that African Americans have a higher level of tolerance for pain, so they don't really take us as serious as they do, a white, patient. But I just wanted to just share that story with you to let you know this is very personal. And what Kamala Harris is doing, it could save someone like my sister's life. So Joe Biden, really think about this right now.
And I'll share one thing. I've seen Kamala Harris speak on this topic many times. And one of the things, a piece of advice that she gave on this specific issue is to advocate very forcefully for yourself. And don't just take no for an answer. And I know that's easier said than done. And perhaps to some people that might seem very self-evident, but that was one of the things that really stuck with me. Is she said, don't back down. If you know something is wrong, then make sure that you're forceful about that. And I've been in that situation before, not as it relates to childbirth or anything like that, where somebody was dismissive of me in my opinion. I was like, this is not normal for me. So figure it out. You're the doctor. You're supposed to help me figure out what's wrong. But had I just allowed her to just be dismissive of me, then she wouldn't have even looked any further. She would have just been like, okay, you're basically imagining that. So that's advice for anybody that's out there. Just press the issue, understanding that just because they're a doctor, that doesn't mean that they have all the answers, and nobody knows your body better than you. And so if you know that something is wrong, then be very forceful and unapologetic about demanding a response to that.
Amen.
That's scary, man. That's scary. Because obviously, Serena Williams, like you said, Allison Felix, Kenny, your family member. I think you said your sister. Yeah. You have Reese. I know you got friends. Maya, I know you got friends. Like Sydney, I know you got friends. You guys in this situation. It's like, if Serena Williams, who ain't nowhere near broke. You dig what I'm saying? Like, Allison Felix, gold medalist, notoriety. She got endorsements. She making, she got a bag. She got bags on top of bag. It doesn't matter, and that's just scary. So it's just like you said, advocate for yourself. And
I think just it's important that Kamala keep bringing up these issues, because if you notice, anytime there is any kind of pandemic, it always affects African Americans at the most disproportionate rate, because they don't take our lives so seriously. So when people are saying Black Lives Matter, we're not just saying Black Lives Matter in terms of police brutality. Black Lives Matter should be just across the board, even when it comes to our health, when it comes to our education, when it comes to our building our businesses. So I just want people just to kind of like understand that this is more of a broader scope than what you're thinking of. Just keep that in mind. And that's why I feel it's so important to actually have that seat at the table, to have that representation like Kamala Harris, someone who's advocating and fighting for these issues. We really need this seat at the table because the disparities are so high. So that's all I just wanted to say.
I appreciate you sharing that, for real, bro. That personal stories, man. I appreciate that, for real. But I actually want to move to our new segment, rather. But we are setting the record straight. So far, we've been doing that, but we really about to set the record straight right now with Ms. Kamala Debbie Harris and her record.
Get your bee emojis ready, child. So that way
It's the I'm about to use my the baby voice and just say, let's go, Marisi. We're gonna let you set the record straight. We're gonna let you gather some people like raking leaves in the front yard and all.
You know, that's what I do, right? So this week, the topic of setting the record straight is this falsehood, this lie, this smear that Kamala Harris locked up or kept a person that was exonerated locked up. And now a lot of people have repeated some iteration of this. The story that they're actually referring to is a man by the name of Kevin Cooper. Okay. A lot of people don't know that because they're just going to have bits and pieces of what they've heard on a meme and they don't retain it all. But the story as they tell it, which is completely wrong, is that Kevin Cooper was that, first of all, they say that Kamala Harris denied DNA testing to Kevin Cooper and he was exonerated and she kept him locked up. Okay, so let's rewind. Kevin Cooper, to be clear, exhausted all of his appeals prior to Kamala Harris taking office as Attorney General. Okay, so from even before Kamala Harris became Attorney General, Kevin Cooper's case was solely a matter of clemency. Okay, so he first appealed for clemency because he was on death row. He appealed for clemency with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Governor Schwarzenegger actually stayed his execution, but he did not grant him a clemency. All right, so Schwarzenegger goes, then Governor Jerry Brown comes into office. So again, Kevin Cooper's appeals for clemency to Jerry Brown. Be clear, clemency is a matter of the governor, okay? The Attorney General does not grant clemency cases, all right? The clemency request for Jerry Brown, the one that was sitting in front of him, was to get additional DNA testing. They asserted that this DNA testing would exonerate Kevin Cooper. Now, 2 DNA tests prior to that had incriminated him, okay? I'm not saying he's guilty, but I'm just saying that he did not have a DNA test that exonerated him. So anybody suggesting that he was exonerated by DNA evidence is actually not telling the truth. I don't know if he's innocent or guilty, but there had been no evidence that had proven his innocence in terms of 2 DNA tests prior to this request from Jerry Brown. Kamala Harris did not have any jurisdiction to grant a DNA test for Kevin Cooper because the matter wasn't presiding in front of the Department of Justice. This is solely a matter of clemency for the governor. All right. Now, what happened was, I believe it was Nicholas Kristof wrote a story in 2018, probably expecting Kamala Harris to run for president. And he mischaracterized what happened and said that Kamala Harris denied this DNA test. You will notice, and I challenge anybody to find anywhere prior to that article in the New York Times that stated that Kamala Harris denied this DNA test. I'm going to tell you what, it doesn't exist. I've looked for it high and low. You want to know why it doesn't exist? Because it wasn't under her jurisdiction. And in fact, you don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of the next Attorney General when he had a better response for it than I will admit the Kamala Harris campaign did. He said, it's not in my jurisdiction. This is a matter for Jerry Brown. Or sorry, at that time it was Gavin Newsom, right? So no, wait, actually it was Jerry Brown. It was still Jerry Brown back then. So he said, this isn't in my jurisdiction. And even the person that was running against that Attorney General said, well, when I become Attorney General, if I become Attorney General, then I will ask the governor to grant this clemency request in terms of the DNA test. Notice he didn't say I would order it. He said he would request it of it. You can actually read the clemency request to the governor. It does not mention Kamala Harris anywhere. It does not mention the Attorney General anywhere. All right. So now that we're perfectly clear, clemency, as it is throughout the country, is determined by the governor. All right. So after this quote unquote expose comes out, Governor at the time, Jerry Brown, says, all right, fine. As I leave office, I will grant this DNA testing. Okay, so that was 2018. That was one of his final things. 2019, Gavin Newsom comes into office. He expands the DNA testing. Notice that these are the governors doing this, not the attorney general, but the governors that are ordering these tests. You can go look right now. There's a clemency website for the California governor that tells you the status of these clemency requests. And guess what? You will find that Kevin Cooper's clemency status is still pending. His DNA tests are still pending. So Kamala Harris, number one, did not block DNA testing. She had no jurisdiction over it. Number two, Kevin Cooper has not been exonerated. I'm not saying he's guilty, but he has not been exonerated. The results of those DNA tests are still pending. His clemency matter is still pending with now Governor Newsom. So that's the third governor that it went through. You've had three governors rule on Kevin Cooper's case, none of which involved Kamala Harris. So anybody that repeats the lie that Kamala Harris blocked DNA testing that exonerated an innocent man is completely wrong. And as a person who does not understand civics, particularly does not understand how the clemency process works.
And they're a person who probably shouldn't have been running for president. Let me stop. Let's not throw that in there. We ain't gonna reopen old wounds and such. But thank you all. We are now gathered here today in the eyesight of God. Boy, I'm telling you, you gather that like a squirrel and some acorns. That's what's up. My goodness. Well, no, ain't nothing else to be said. We moving on. Ain't nothing else to be said. Listen, Kamala Harris is quite the endorser. She is not only just a enforcer of law, but she is an endorser of all some people. And y'all wasn't feeling that. I hope the comments section loved that little. Anyway, we're gonna move forward. Maya, Kamala's magic touch. I would say she's got the golden touch like King Midas, but I think it might be better to say she's got that pink and green touch like an ivy. Tell us about it. The power of her endorsement.
Yeah, actually, she's been, she has a page that she put all of her endorsements on. You all can check it out. I could actually put the link up for some of you all. It's on Medium. It's on her blog post, but a couple of things. One, a couple of the people that she's endorsed have already won their seats during this primary season and will go on to face a Republican challenger. So I think that's really fantastic. Another thing that I thought was interesting, I remember hearing a couple of months ago, and I had to re-look it up to see if I heard this right. There was a guy on Fox News who said, Robert Wolf is his name. He used to be like the CEO of a big bank. And he said, Joe Biden just got one of the most coveted endorsements, and it's Kamala Harris, second only to Barack Obama. And I was like, what? Squeaky, 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 what? Fox News said that, but he meant that. And I wanted to make sure there was no snark. He's just saying, no, this is truthfully how he feels about it. Now, I'm using that as an example of why you're seeing so much, kind of fear and loathing in certain corners. She is formidable, and that's why her endorsement is formidable. You can see the way that people have enthusiastically embraced her endorsement. One of my favorite responses was when Presley got her. Ayanna Pressley said, proud to have the endorsement of my sister in service, Kamala Harris, a powerful barrier-breaking, determined advocate for our communities and our country. Join our movement. So everyone that she's been endorsing so far has not only proudly talked about this endorsement, but it has had influence. Endorsements do influence people, and I want to say it the other way around. Kamala Harris has been endorsed herself by La Opinion. As I said, they say it apoya Kamala Harris. We want Kamala Harris to be the vice president, okay? And then we also had Washington Blade saying it from the LGBT community paper. We're having endorsements around right now because they're so important. One, I want to say her endorsements are important because it's showing you that Kamala is caring about politics on the local, state, and federal level. This is not just about team playing. She's recognizing that right now, each one of these offices are incredibly important. So she is looking at the candidates that she's supporting from Abigail Springer in Virginia to Lucy McBath in Georgia. She's making sure that these candidates that might be in danger of losing their seats are getting the proper attention. Morning Consult did a study, I believe back in March, that saw, well, actually it was about midterms, that asked, do endorsements have any sway? And it does. Luckily, we can see that from the Obama's endorsement, about 73% of voters say they're swayed by him, including 13% of independents. And I'm going to say that type of endorsement holds sway for a lot of Democrats with Kamala as well. I would like to see over this next week, I'd like to see more papers get off the sidelines and pick a vice president as well that they would endorse. I've seen a lot of papers from Slate to NPR wanting to know what they would see from Kamala Harris. I'm seeing some positivity. And to be honest, the only negativity that I've been seeing so far, even from California papers, the same thing they say over and over again is Kamala Harris punched back at Joe Biden during the primary. I don't know if the rest of you are seeing this. I really want people to get over that. Do you know what I'm saying? If that's the only reason you're worried about endorsing her right now, if you're a paper or your person, that's nothing. Joe Biden's family doesn't care about that. They've already said they don't care about that. It was a debate. Everybody else attacked Joe Biden. I'm just trying to figure out why people are still caring about that. I'm seeing this still listed as an issue of why some people haven't gotten off the sideline. So in conclusion, I just want to say it's thrilling to see the type of people. I would urge you all to go to her Medium page and to see her endorsements. And I see you, Kenny, to see some of her endorsements and to support those candidates in particular, because those are great candidates that are fighting for their communities. And also, I would share some of the endorsements, like I just mentioned, the Blade and La Opinion on pages this week. If you're supporting Kamala Harris and you want her to be vice president, I would show those to people as well. Those these are influential papers from other groups that are wanting to see her because she sees us. Okay, so I'll finish that. And I saw that Kenny did a hand. You didn't?
Sorry, I had me mute for a minute. I just want to say, it's important that it's great that Kamala Harris is it's important to see that everybody wants her endorsement, because Kamala Harris is a hot ticket item right now. And it's very gracious of her to share her spotlight. Some people, they put their ego before, the party, to where they're scared to kind of show have other people, shine in the light. They feel there's some odd reason that could dim their shine. But Kamala Harris isn't that type of person. She's been very gracious, and it also shows in her past. I mean, she went out and campaigned for the behalf of Stacey Abrams when she was running for governor. I mean, Kamala Harris literally knows that it's very important that these seats matter, and we need to win back these congressional seats, these House and Senate seats. We need this. And it's important for Joe Biden to understand that this is bigger than just a presidency. I mean, it's great that we win the presidency, but unless we're able to actually be able to have the House and the Senate to actually pass these bills, then it won't really matter.
Yes, Reese.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Kenny. Hey, Reese.
Yeah, I wanted to add, it's been a tough election cycle for Black women in particular. We've seen Black men make a lot of great strides. Today, Jamal Bowman was officially declared the winner over incumbent Elliot Engel, and I think that's a fantastic win for him. We saw a lot of people really come forward in New York, very much underdogs in those races as well. But Black women have had a little bit of a tough time. And so I really appreciate how Senator Kamala Harris, to Kenny's point, she actually supported Stacey Abrams in the primary. She's not a person that just waits for the general election to be like, oh, okay, I'll hop on board. She actually supports Black women in the primary. And so somebody had actually pointed it out in the comments, and I'm going to find it, but I want to shout out the fact that she supported Jackie Gordon in the primary out of New York. She won her primary. She supported Desiree Tims in Ohio. She actually is raising money for her. We see that the Lincoln Project is raising millions of dollars. We see that a lot of these people are raising hand over fist money, but Black women still have a fundraising disadvantage. Even Kamala Harris herself had a fundraising disadvantage. And so it's really important that Kamala Harris supports these Black women. Candace Valenzuela is another, she's an Afro-Latina down in Texas. She would actually, it's funny because there's a gentleman in New York, and his name escapes me right now, but he was vying to be the first Afro-Latino, right? And there was this whole controversy about he can't join the Hispanic Caucus and the CBC at this point. But now we have Candice Valenzuela, who is another Afro-Latino, Latina in this case. And so Kamala Harris supported her. And so she, to you guys, as you all mentioned now, she supports Lucy McBath and Lauren Underwood, Ayanna Pressley, and so on and so forth. And so I just want to shout out Black women running for office. Donate to Black women. Okay, everybody says, listen to Black woman. Okay, that's fine. Everybody pats Black woman on the head. Okay, that's fine. But give Black women some money. That's what Kamala Harris has done. She's raised money. She did I want to say it was an Emily's List joint fundraiser for several Black woman candidates. And so she puts her money's where her mouth is. She builds a pipeline of Black talent, okay? She builds a pipeline of talent across the board, but I'm particularly interested in Black talent. Some people got leaky pipes. They bleed Black talent. If you look at their data from one year to the next, them numbers is dropping, okay? I don't have to name names, but I want somebody who's gonna build pipelines and not leaky pipes. If you're gonna put a Band-Aid on it for a look while you running, oh, okay, I put a Band-Aid on my pipes, but then you rip that Band-Aid off and let it leak. I ain't got time for that. I want a person who's gonna build a pipeline, a nice, strong pipeline of talent, and particularly Black talent, and particularly Black women talent. And that's Kamala Harris.
And RIP to the Justice Democrats. RIP. RIP.
I was gonna ask this. Reese, how come you haven't written an opinion piece for Washington Post? I feel like we need one from you because I'm getting really frustrated with this is what I recognize too. One of the issues with the press, and I wanted to touch on this when you were setting the record straight. One of the issues of the press is because the press is majority cis white males. They usually just look around the room and say, hey, I'll get your opinion. You come here. Or, I'll call my friend Fred. Hey, Fred, do you have an opinion about Kamala Harris? Instead of trying to cast a net and getting somebody else. So they're just going to get some random people that they might know. Yeah. I'm frustrated because I would like to see that, what you just talked about, the fact that Black women, one of the reasons I got mad at Jonathan Allen at the beginning of the election cycle, and I've mentioned this in earlier episodes, he works for NBC, and he was just like, well, Kamala Harris really only raised $12 million. It's not that big compared to, and I was just like, wait a second, you have no idea how astronomical that is. Right. Do you not have a sense of history? Did you have no idea how this works? Yeah. He did finally understand, but I think you need to, like Washington Post, I've got something for you. Off the presses.
Well, I know a lot of the stuff I say finds it in other people's mouths. And so I appreciate people listening and paying attention and even repeating my talking points, my thoughts. That's where some influence, I guess, comes along, even though I'm not the face of those words. But it's to your point, it's all about access, right? And if you have a candidate, let's just say in theory, right, who has an interest in getting op-eds and they have the access, then those are the stories that are going to be told. When you have somebody who's working the refs. And unfortunately, and I don't know if this is an access thing, I don't know if it's just an unwillingness to play the game kind of thing, but Kamala Harris, her apparatus has never been as much about working the refs from what I've seen. And child, anytime they've tried, these little, I don't want to say bitches, but these little folks always have to put them on blast. They put their DMs on blast. If you saw Edward Isaac DeVore, who, they love to say, oh, these Kamala people tried to tell me on back. Well, why is that an article? If they're trying to tell you on background, why is it an article? You don't have nobody else's background stuff put in an article like that. And so that, again, is a disadvantage of being a Black woman, where you have Operation Block the Black Woman, because they don't want you to play the game. That hit piece today in Huffington Post is, well, you can't have chummy relationships. You can't have coalitions. You can't build alliances with people, because then you're opportunistic, then you're craven, then you're sullied in some kind of way. Right. And so these are the kinds of headwinds where they really want to smack your Black ass down and tell you need to stay in your place. And that's the challenge. Would I write for Washington Post? I think I could write a damn good better article than what they wrote. And when the author was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, she couldn't even answer any of my questions competently. So I don't know how you write an article about how a fantastic your choices record is, and you don't even know her record. But I've been going on too long about this, so I'm just gonna let it go. All I'm gonna say is that Black women don't have the same insider access, and they don't play the game the same way that others do, and they're not allowed to play the game the same way that others do. But I'm going to continue to say what I've been saying is that privilege is not merit, and lack and disadvantages are not deficiencies. So just because she's at a disadvantage in terms of being able to have a slate of people with access to Washington Post, they have a great appetite for stories that are anti-Kamala. That doesn't mean that she's deficient in any kind of way. Sorry, you open up that can of worms, Maya. I'm sorry.
Child,
I love it. I love it. And I will say this to put a button on that is that I do think that we do have to demand or create more access and demand more access, because Reese, I'm with you for years. This is like one of the first years I've said no to people. I'm like, can you handle that for me, Maya? Sure, free work. Can you handle this? Yeah, sure, free work. This is the first year I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to do that. Or this is what my fee is. This is what my rate is. And also just asking for what I would like to have. So, and I think for a lot of Black women, that's something that we're told not to do, or that it's impolite, or that when we do that, that's very aggressive. You're really just being really too assertive. And that, just like when I was bringing it back to when Kamala Harris on stage said something to Biden, it was just a biting truth. Something that you're supposed to do. It was all over the papers that she had just destroyed him. How dare she do that? And honestly, his entire family is like, we're fine with it. It's okay. It was a debate. We understand how this works. Yes, Reese.
Well, I don't know if they're that over it, to be honest with you. But
you don't think his wife is? I think she's over it now, because I think people were putting it on Jill. Hi, Dr. Jill Biden. They were putting it on Jill, like Jill wasn't over. I think Jill probably was hurt, like anybody would be in that moment. But at the same time, I think that Jill, whose husband and her have been in politics for decades, does understand how this works. And I think that someone like Biden or Kamala has been far more attacked in the press over the years than that little exchange on the stage. I just want people to keep that in perspective. To me, I was just like, it's so frustrating to me, because I can't tell you how many people think I'm the most aggressive person they've ever met in their entire life. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm just talking in a normal way.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with demanding more. And I'm just going to shout out to all the Black women that are demanding more right now. And shout out to Tiffany Cross for literally representing on The View, because that literally made my day. Thank you so much, Tiffany. If you're watching, girl, you were talking for all of us.
Yeah, she was really great on that. I still want more from Black women who have a platform to say it with their chest. I mean, you have Uncle Luke, who's like, this is why I picked Kamala. And I see a complete absence of Black women who are willing to go out on that limb, which to me shouldn't be that much of a limb, but that's fine. But to your point, Maya, what I do want to say is that we have our own platforms. You have your Mayathon that's coming up on July 27th. We have this platform that we've built, Live with the KHive. I have a Medium post, our Medium blog, and pretty much all my Medium posts are about Kamala. And so we are our own media, and that's the beauty of the internet. And we don't have to be beholden to the Washington Post. Now, we don't have the distribution that the Washington Post has, but let's share each other's mediums, let's share each other's resources, and still get the information out there. Because to be honest, a lot of people don't know the difference, okay? When they're reading a medium versus this, they just get a link, they see a headline, and they read through it a little bit, and then they go on about their business. So let's continue to build our own media and let the mainstream media catch up to us.
Facts.
We are the leaders because we're everyday voters. So it's important to understand. We're telling you our life experiences. I'm telling you about my sister, what basically when it comes to health bias. These are real stories. We are real Americans. We're not paid to do this. This is something we're doing because we're advocating for somebody who's going to fight for us. So just know that. But child, we spent too much time on this damn topic, y'all. We gotta move.
Yeah, we're moving on, but I will say this: anybody who's still tripping over that Kamala Joe Biden exchange is soft. Like, you've literally never played a sport in your life. Like, in football, like, we have training camp. We hit each other on the same team. We have aired each other out. I don't hold that against me. Oh man, yo, he hitting too hard in practice. No, that's respect. It's part of the game. It's a debate. You get on the field, you put your pads on, you might get hit. Nobody's crying about it later. It's part of the game. Moving on. Tangible solutions for today's problems. Sydney, how does Kamala Harris have tangible solutions for today's problems?
Well, thank you, Drew. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the tangible solutions to some of the problems that we're seeing that have been introduced directly from Kamala herself. I know that there's been talks on some of y'all's timelines about plans and, what makes, someone a good choice for VP, and people are saying that other candidates had stronger legislation towards Black lives, that they focused all their plans. We're not going to say any names here, but that they introduced a litany of plans that they could implement over time that would bring about, I guess, actionable change for Black people and Black Americans and Latino Americans and minorities in this country. So I wanted to talk about basically what Kamala is doing right now that is actionable, that we can see, that's tangible, that is helping everyday Americans, and things that she's implementing that once they get passed will also help everyday Americans. And we can talk about in particular the $600 a month add-on to regular unemployment through the CARES Act. That was legislation that was introduced directly from Kamala, that particular piece. And this $600, it's actually $600 a week addition. And what that looks like later is a $2,000 a month basically UBI payment until the end of this pandemic, is what the current legislation looks like, because that CARES Act extension does end, for me at least, on July 25th. And that has helped so many Americans get through this pandemic. Those who are like myself, who were laid off directly because of this pandemic. Literally, I'm in tech sales. There were no jobs. My company struggled to get a loan through the Paycheck Protection Program, and as a result, that I ended up being laid off from a brand new position that I had just gotten in March. So right as soon as I was laid off, my day went into a whirlwind. But then I realized, okay, I'll be able to survive because I'm eligible for unemployment. I'm also eligible for an additional $600 a week. At first I didn't believe it was true, because I was like, this never happens. I live in America. This does not happen. And when I got my first check, I was like, oh, this is happening. And Kamala Harris is one of the main reasons that this is happening right now. So again, we saw that, we saw action that led to, direct impact. I'm not the only person that has been directly impacted by that, unfortunately. But fortunately, because of leaders like Kamala Harris, we were able to sustain thus far. And hopefully that will push legislators to pass the additional piece of legislation that is currently sitting in the Senate right now for that additional $2,000 a month stimulus until the end of the pandemic. The next act that I would like to discuss is the Saving Our Streets Act, and that act was introduced by Kamala Harris to address a specific issue that minority business owners, particularly Black business owners, were facing during this pandemic. When we had mass shutdowns across the country, Black business owners lost tons of service and revenue. And I believe as of today, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe about 40% of Black businesses are set to permanently close because of this pandemic, because they did not receive funding from the federal stimulus that was passed for businesses. And the Saving Our Streets Act is looking to provide answers to that. And that helps business owners like the one that I mentioned earlier from Sweet Heat Aesthetics here in Matteson, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. My esthetician talked about having issues with funding and why it took her so long to, get her business off of the ground. Luckily for her, she was able to, maintain, some kind of funding and, get her space in the office building. And, thus far she's been able, because of her, because she was able to save for so long, she managed to, keep money in the bank and keep her space while the pandemic was, at its height, particularly here in Illinois before we were able to reopen. But we don't know exactly what that looks like in the future. We don't know if Illinois is going to have to, reclose again. We don't know what that looks like for us in 2021. So again, that act can directly impact Black women businesses and Black businesses in general. That particular stimulus for someone like my esthetician, her name is Pi, that could be directly, that could help her maintain, should she not be able to operate her business because of the pandemic. In case of something like that would keep her business afloat. And that makes a great impact on a community of people who are having to go into business for ourselves because we're, locked out of other industries. We're trying to maintain wealth in our communities, and, we're trying to talk about Black prosperity and Black public health. And again, Kamala just has that front of mind, and she's creating solutions that will impact us right now, today, not, 1 year down the line, not, 4 years down the line, or even 10. We're not talking about studies at this point. We know that she's taken a look at the data. She understands exactly what people need and where they need it and how to pinpoint that. And she pays really, really great attention to detail. And again, that, in my opinion, is what makes her such a strong candidate. Again, with acts like the Vote Safe Act, for instance, we can see that Kamala has seen the data from the last 2 elections, and she understands that voter suppression is a huge thing, especially in places like the Bible Belt and swing states like Ohio. We have here, even in the Midwest, we had Black folks in Milwaukee waiting 8 to 10 hours, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to vote. They're sitting outside. They can't get into these are all things that lead to voter suppression, as well as, flat out just, changing the rolls, moving people out of the rolls, installing poll taxes, legislation that doesn't allow for felons to vote. All of those things add to that bubble of voter suppression that has kept, opposing parties, opposing or parties that are opposed to progressive politics in power for so long, because they have essentially chokeholds on, small districts, large districts, and then ultimately states that, vote on the outcomes of our national elections. So again, Kamala is looking at data. She's chiseling in, she's honing in on the most important issues, and she's introducing legislation that provides solutions to those particular problems right away, that can be implemented on day one of their passing. And that is why Senator Kamala Harris is so important to any campaign, any where she's able to, make laws, whether that be the Senate or even, as vice president. But this is what makes her particularly unique and the top candidate for vice president, because she's able to have a hand. She's able to, I guess, I'm not trying to say a hand, I should say, she's able to really chisel in and look at that everyday person and provide, again, solutions that involve everybody, including the person that is typically marginalized and not able to participate.
Sydney, you made a comment, and I like it because you said she has the front of mind to look out for things like that, which I think is so awesome. Because like front of mind meaning we're not an afterthought. We're not a hey, this is what's up. Oh, this would be convenient. It's the first thing she's literally thinking about. Reese, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out something. We hadn't talked about this in our planning session because Kamala hadn't proposed it yet. But this week, Kamala proposed the Relief Act. And this is another area where Senator Kamala Harris is always thinking about everyday people. Under the CARES Act, about 1/3 of properties were protected from evictions. Well, in Kamala Harris's bill that she's proposed, it would apply to all properties. And so her Relief Act sets out to ban evictions, foreclosures, utility shutoffs, rent increases, negative credit reporting, and it expands legal protections for renters. And I'm encouraged to see something like this pop up prior to the first of the month. So,
Right.
I mean, we're really heading for disaster. Congress, I think somebody in the comments had pointed out, is coming back into session. And so the Republicans are putting forth another plan. And so these are the kinds of things that the Democrats should be fighting for. We know that Senator Kamala Harris is going to fight for. But I want to shout out, speaking of pipelines, Senator Kamala Harris has a very diverse staff. She's one of the top, she's top 3 in terms of her diversity. And a person that I've always been exceedingly impressed with. I know we love Megan. She's Kamala's staff. She's one of Kamala's press team. But I have to shout out Yasmin. And I texted her. I was like, I don't know if you want me to say your name. She's like, oh, nobody knows who I am. So I want to shout out Yasmin.
Love you, Yas.
She's a Black woman, a dope Black woman. Okay. A lot of times, even when we see in this election, they talk about Elizabeth Warren as economics, right? Even though Kamala Harris has an economics background and Elizabeth Warren does not. And even though Kamala Harris has put forth all of these plans that actually get to Main Street, not Wall Street, because don't nobody care about who 2% wealth tax if they can't make their ends meet, if it's not putting money in their pockets. But anyway, Yasmin is actually the one who's behind Kamala Harris's LIFT Act, which you've talked about before. She's the person who's behind the Save Our Street Act. And she's the person who's behind this Relief Act. So it's a Black woman who knows her economics, who works for Kamala Harris, that has these solutions for everyday Americans that will help people stay in their homes, that will help people not be penalized long-term for this COVID pandemic that's hit them. We know that Black people have been disproportionately hit, as well as Latino people, in terms of the inability to pay bills. They've had to skip bills or whatever else situation may be. Black people are more likely to rent. And so these are solutions that actually really, really, really get to the heart of what people are dealing with right now. So shout out to Yasmin. I love you. We love you. We love Black women that are doing it big. Shout out to Kamala Harris for not just seeing white is right when it comes to economics and actually seeing that I have an actual business economics degree. I don't think I'm equipped to go work for Kamala Harris and do economic policy, but we're not typically the face of economics. And Senator Kamala Harris, though, she looks at the credentials and not the cosmetics.
Don't forget, she also had an operation budget of 800 million, child. So let's just throw that in there in a minute. So she's balancing them books, okay? But since you was talking about Megan, Megan, I think she tweeted out something as it pertains to Kamala Harris that she's dropping out policies like mixtapes. So since we're talking about that, everybody's wondering, like, well, Kamala Harris, well, why would she want to be VP? Shouldn't she be more positioned to be AG right now? The work that she's been putting in the Senate, especially as it pertains to fighting for the most marginalized among us, the Black community. I mean, Kamala Harris was actually able to negotiate a 14% increase in HBCU funding in the Trump era of all things. During the Trump administration, I think it was passed into law March 23rd, 2018, as a part of the $1.3 trillion federal budget. Kamala Harris was able to negotiate that in there. So Kamala Harris is putting in the work, and if she's chosen, she'll be uniquely positioned to pass all these bills that we're talking about, the MORE Act, so like things like that that's going to affect the everyday American, especially the African American community. But right now, I want to just stress this point, and this important part right now. Kamala Harris has been fighting throughout her entire, 3 years as senator. She's been fighting racial injustice in the era of racial division. Kamala Harris, there's nobody else that can tackle these types of issues like a black woman, particularly a black woman like Kamala Harris. I mean, Kamala Harris has been putting up bills that just not just, just putting up bills and them not going anywhere. A lot of these bills have passed. Let me just highlight a few that are very important, especially in the era that we're in right now of racial division. So Kamala Harris put up the Justice for Victims of Lynching Act, and that also passed through the Senate, if you guys didn't know. So she's just not talking, she's walking, she's getting results done. She also put up a resolution condemning hate crimes and other forms of racism, religious, ethnic backgrounds, discrimination, inciting violence, targeting minorities in the United States. That was agreed to in the Senate. That's another one, child. And then a resolution condemning horrific anti-Semitic, child. I ain't gonna say no names, child. We just talk about something anti-Semitic, but y'all already know what I'm talking about. If y'all are into pop culture, whatever. But anyways, anti-Semitic bill that was also agreed into the Senate. I mean, these are important bills. Right now, everybody is on 10 right now when it comes to these racial divides. And right now, we need somebody on the ticket who has a proven record of fighting for these issues, actually getting the work done, allowing these bills to be passed through Senate. Other than who else but Kamala Harris? It's important to have a woman of color, but there's nothing like a black woman. I just want to specify that. I know a lot of people saying person of color, woman of color, particularly a black woman, because we're the most marginalized. We're the most, we're the highest, we have the highest mortality rate. We're the most, we have the most fatality rate when it comes to coronavirus. And speaking of coronavirus, Kamala Harris was working with Mayor Eric Garcetti, and she was actually helping him to actually, get him, because right now he was in desperate need of more test kits. He was in desperate need of more hospital beds. Kamala Harris was actually working with him when he wasn't receiving that. And that was actually back in April, early this year. So Kamala Harris has the record. She's been fighting for this. So why not give it to her? That's just the only thing that makes sense. I mean, she has the record. She's been fighting for it. I mean, it's great to have talk, but where's your receipts? Where's your policies? Where's your action? And if we have Kamala Harris, who as VP, which would pretty much be the president of the Senate, she'll be able to make sure that these bills are passed. We don't have time to be complacent in these things right now. Like, a lot of people are on edge right now, and I'm glad that Kamala Harris literally put up that bill as it pertains to rent, because a lot of people are going to be out for hazard pay this month. So I can only imagine what's going to be happening in the next month. So I'm glad Kamala Harris is fighting for these things.
As am I, man. It's interesting when you brought up Mayor Garcetti, mayor of Los Angeles, for those of y'all who may not know.
That's your mayor.
What, say again?
That's your mayor, right? That's
my mayor. That's my mayor. That's Mayor Garcetti.
That's your mayor.
I didn't realize how cool they were until that day that I met her, because they were there at this event together, man. They homies, like, for real. Like, so it's if anything that he needs or anything like that, it's nothing but a phone call. He don't have to go through the channels and all of that. It's a text message like, yo, what's up? He just hop on and do that. So that's incredible. I think the other thing though, when it comes to Kamala Harris's ability to get things done in impossible situations, I'm still trying to figure that part out. Like you said, the 14% HBCU increase in the Trump era, and you got that. How? Like, it's certain things, we make the jokes about Oakland, she's a child of Oakland and such, but you can get off an impossible shot, like one of the Splash Brothers, like you step for Clay, when there's a defender in your face, you ain't set your feet, you can just boom. That's the equivalent of what she actually does in the Senate. So hopefully Steph and Clay go ahead and induct her into the Splash Brothers. She was the Splash sister. They all light skinned. Let me not bring that up. Anyway, Reese, I know you want to chime in on this.
Yeah, I think Kamala was on Chris Hayes And I've seen her use this refrain many times, but she talked about that it's always a fight worth having. You don't take it as a foregone conclusion that, oh, well, it's Trump, and so we're going to lose the battle. You still fight that battle. And so Kamala has always had convictions in what she stands for. She has convictions in terms of supporting HBCUs as an HBCU alumni. And so, yeah, of course, she's going to fight that battle for HBCUs instead of saying, well, you know, it's Trump. So I think that's a testament to it. And earlier I had a live session where I called it a show and tell about that showed some clips from some of her press conferences. And what's so striking, if you guys don't really understand the scope of what Kamala Harris did as an attorney general, she had to coordinate so many different government agencies. Okay. As attorney general, you are the lawyer for the state of every single agency. And so there are so many instances, and I just highlighted a couple of them, where she brought together, whether it's legislators or whether it's law enforcement people or whether it's different agencies within the state of California, which again, I'll repeat, is the largest state in the country and is the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yes, God.
And she constantly brought together all of these stakeholders. And despite the way that it was mischaracterized in this article, this hit piece today, Kamala Harris has a diplomatic skill. And that's really what you need. It's easy to get up there and grandstand and get nothing accomplished. It's easy to get up there and give speeches and pass these purity tests. But then when you look at the record, there's no record of accomplishment. It's a lot harder to try to bring people together. And that's the Libra in her. I'm a Libra too, so I'm gonna go ahead and shout that out. That's the Libra in her to allows her to bring people together for a shared sense of purpose and be able to articulate, well, this is what's in it for you. And whether that's in terms of criminal justice, a lot of people don't care about people who are convicted, right? But she says, well, this is what's in it for you, your taxpayer dollars. Your taxpayer dollars are going to be $30,000 to house a person in prison or $5,000 to give them a job and make it so that these communities are safer. So she's always able to articulate these things, build coalitions. And that's why she gets so much more accomplished than so many other people. She's used to doing the work. She's used to leading people. She's used to people who being able to convince you, because, you know, as a Black woman, you have to make your case. Okay. Yeah. You have to have a thesis. It has to be unassailable. That's my new favorite word. I'm not new, but it's my favorite word. I'm using it over and over again. Unassailable. And you have to have an unassailable case when you're a Black woman trying to get anything accomplished in this whole world. And so that's why Kamala Harris is so effective and uniquely effective at everything she puts her mind to.
Well, I just wanted to say this. I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm not the most literate person on here. I don't own a thesaurus or anything like that, child. But let me tell you something. Kamala Harris breaks it down to, I guess, a 3rd grade level to where anybody can actually understand what she's saying. I mean, when she was talking about her LIFT Act, when she's talking about finances and stuff like that, it's easy to comprehend. It's not something that I have to go look up. You know, I can't say that about other people. I'm not going to throw shade, but I'm just going to say when Elizabeth Warren is speaking, I'm sorry, but I don't know what she's talking about. And the numbers ain't adding up too much well for me. But I'm just saying, to the average American, a lot of people liked Donald Trump because he was actually able to, you know, talk on a 3rd grade level for some people. This is what it is. Some people are actually able to understand him. You know, sometimes you need to dumb it down for Americans because you need to be able to talk to the everyday American, break it down to where they're actually able to digest what you're saying. And that's important in a vice presidential candidate for you, Joe Biden. So I just wanted to just throw that out there. You know, if you want to talk about these policies, you need somebody who's going to be able to dumb this down for the everyday American to where they're actually able to understand what you're trying to give them. It's important. It's really important.
I volunteer for the dumb down job. If I have to, I'll go ahead and just make the videos in layman's terms. Y'all know me. I try to explain policy and things that are happening in normal everyday language. That's why I speak in AAB in my videos, because that's how we talk. That's how I'm not sitting there talking about constituents and, well, you know, the subsidizing of certain areas. Nobody says subsidizing. Nobody says subsidizing on a regular conversation ever. But yeah, I've been like, yo, man, they giving out my. Nah, but let's say that. Yo, Maya, did you want to chime in? I feel like I see you rocking. I don't know if you like. There's the jump. Okay. Sid, did you want to jump in? Anything you want to add to? We feeling good. Oh, well, listen, y'all.
Wait, can I just add one more thing before we wrap up?
Yes.
This, I think, I don't know if I said it here or if I said it earlier, but this is crunch time. Okay. Right. This is the time to go hard. If that's a yellow emoji, a yellow heart emoji, if it's a B, you know, Zach, whatever his name, wrote that, had that headpiece, and he blocked the entire KHive channel, but we were on his tail, let me put it that way, all day, correcting the record. And this is the absolute time to go hard. But what I really, really implore you all to do, don't just sit on Twitter and have these conversations with each other and on these, you know, detractors pages. Please talk to your folks in real life, especially Black people. Exactly. We have to come on board with Kamala, and we have to do it now. And we need to have these conversations now. And we have to really, really understand what's at stake. 2 weeks from now is too late. The decision will be made. It will be done. It'll be over. And so now is not the time to let up. Do not get discouraged. Be empowered, be encouraged, go hard, do anything in your power. If it's fill out surveys, if it's tagging the campaign, if it's pushing back, if it's having conversations, do all of the above, please, because this is our chance to put that final impression in Team Biden's head and to really, really make the case. And so I know it's been a very long time. This is our 14th episode. It's been long for us as well. It's been long for me because I've been at this since last year. Okay. I'm tired, but I'm also ready to really, 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 really go hard. I know everybody on here will, and I'll let them speak for themselves, but we have to go hard. We don't have the Washington Post in our corner. We don't have the Huffington Post in our corner. But what we have is an army of very, very well-armed and educated and passionate and enthusiastic people for Kamala. That's where our strength is. That's where Kamala's unique strength is. And that's what we need to harness to the greatest ability that we can in the next 2 weeks. With everything we got, we have to give it to them for the next 2 weeks.
Let me just say this to y'all. That means that, can I go ahead first.
Let's jump in real fast and then okay. So what that means is basically shit. Did I can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you're frozen in your picture, but we can still hear you, Seth. Go ahead. Okay, now we can't hear. Kenny, you want to go?
Okay, I'll go. And you'll just jump back in. I know you've been having technical difficulties all night, child. I don't know what's going on. It must be the moon or something. But anyways, so KHive, this is the only thing I want to say. Don't be Twitter gangsters, okay? We can keep this energy online, but you got to have this energy in person. Anytime you hear somebody giving some false information on Kamala, you know, you got to be able to push back on it. I mean, you have all the necessities that you need with all these live KHive, so many episodes of good, meaty information. But not just with that, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family. Look, I could tell you a story with me and my family. I told them Thanksgiving, everybody in this house, y'all gonna vote for Kamala. I don't care if you like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. I don't care what y'all gonna do. I will burn this motherfucker down with you and me, all of us in here. If you talking about you supporting anybody other than Kamala Harris, you got to literally have that kind of energy all day. If you able to tweet this, you better be able to say it in person. I want to see that same energy all day, every day. We don't play these games, and don't allow anybody to discourage you. Don't allow these people to try to stop you, because all they're trying to do is literally just do this reverse psychology, make you feel bad about, you know, you're attacking misinformation. And everybody knows the power that the KHive has. We are a force to be reckoned with, and we better utilize this power, not just online, but in person. Like Reese was saying, I think it's very, very important. You should be able to talk to some of your coworkers. I know some of them, like, you know, I don't know anything about Kamala, but most people, when they get to know Kamala, it's a completely different story. And the only way that we can actually do this is if we actually not just put it in words, but in bodies, because Kamala Harris draws a lot of attention, whether it be positive or negative. She is a very polarizing figure. She's still holds the record for the most views for town hall. So she's drawing people. She gets bodies. She gets attendees to these, to these fundraisers. So I think it's very important. So that's all I wanted to say.
And let me just also add, share on Facebook, because Facebook is where a lot of BS is. I don't even really do Facebook too much shit. I can only pick one struggle, and Twitter is my struggle. But I don't do like me. Somebody got to go on Facebook and share these things, whether it's sharing an article or whatever the situation may be. But Robin made a good comment, and even Kenny, you've mentioned this before. Wear Kamala gear, wear a hat, wear a button, wear a shirt if you are out social distancing, I hope, and wearing a mask. But just being visible as a supporter is definitely helpful. So this is it, y'all. Even if you believe in your heart and you like, I know that it's Kamala, I ain't even worried about it. That's fine. But let's bring some more people to your level of confidence.
Exactly. I drive around in my car with a big old Kamala sign actually in my window. Y'all didn't know this. Because when people say, well, when I see Kenny, I see the Kamala car, because I got the sticker, I got the bus, everything. My car is geared out, okay? And it's a rust bucket, child. I need to get a new one. But I think the drink done kicked in, child. I might do a happy hour by myself. Y'all go to Too Raw, Too Real. We'll probably keep it going all night tonight because I'm off tomorrow.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'll make mention of this real quick. Yes, number one, we Kamala gear, we got that part. The other part is when it comes to Kamala. Oh yeah, what you said that we are forced to be reckoned with as far as KHive. Zach Carter, he didn't block me yet. I went and checked.
I'm not blocked either, yo. But I think waiting on his ass.
You will be now that you just said that.
Well, when I on his ass, then he'll feel some type of way when I really address his ass. But
he said the Bernie Bros got nothing on KHive, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take that because we already proved that. You know what I'm saying? Mac ain't got seen nothing either. But I will say this though, the tech article. I'm thinking about saying something in response to that. I haven't read it yet because I'm like, it seemed like trash. I don't feel like going through it. But Maya, did you read it? You didn't read it?
The HuffPo one? I saw the title and I wasn't going to give him a click for that. I was like, no, I saw that people had already debunked it beforehand. And then he just felt like being kind of snarky on Twitter. And the only thing that I wanted to make the point was today was when he blocked me, I was polite. I'm usually pretty polite on Twitter when I'm saying something. I am. I just saw that he wanted to stir something up. He was trying to cause the controversy. There's probably within KHive, like any group is not monolithic. I'd say the majority of us are incredibly positive. We're just tired of misogynoir. We're tired of racism. We're tired of the sexism. That is why we're fighting. We're just done. We're just done with that. And we're really done with people misrepresenting the work that Kamala's been through. And Reese already said this before. Most of the people that are writing these articles are not prepared. They think that people are going to check their work. It's so funny because when I write an article, I have fact checkers. I'm looking over my work. I'm putting hyperlinks in. To me, I'm realizing that that's just not a standard that so many people are doing. And I will say something that within whiteness, the construction of whiteness, there's something there where people are like, well, I'm white and I can just say this and it's true. And I'm just like, okay. We've had that be the idea for the last 400 years. We're done. We're just done. So when I was saying that, I don't want to associate us with the aspect of Bernie Bros or MAGA because we're not that. We are policy-driven, massively informed voters who understand what's going on. And we're just done with watching people completely tear apart someone who is really damn good at her job. So exactly. That's why we're done. Even when Kamala first was going to debate for the first time, I made a video before she went on stage. I'm like, she's going to crush it. Because a Black woman is going to be prepared to be on that stage. There is not a doubt in my mind, get it, forget it. That's not how it works, okay? She will be there and she'll be done. But to me, that is not the standard for all these other people, not the ones that are writing the articles, not the ones that are saying something snarky on Twitter. They're mad because people aren't putting up with it anymore. when people, I know this, and the last thing I'll say is like the word white fragility, the term is being thrown around a lot. But there is a truthfulness in that aspect. It's that they're so used to not being challenged. They're so used to what they're saying is truthful that when we're saying, no, it's not, you're incorrect, you're lying, they're so blown away because sometimes this is the first time they're being challenged in their life. And that is one of the great things about social media, is because we can do that. Because otherwise, and as Reese said too, these are new platforms for some people. We wouldn't have access otherwise. If this was 20 years ago, let's go back to when Shirley Chisholm was running. We can't fight back the way that we are now because it was newspapers and there was like one Black person working at that one newspaper. Do you know what I'm saying? So now we can fight back. So that's all I want to say. I'm done.
Okay, I'm gonna say one last statement and then I'm done for the rest of the night, and then y'all can do what y'all want to do. But I love what you said there, because I feel like there's a shift in how things are going to happen. Like, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement right now. Most of the times, we protest and then we're just done. We're not keeping our foot off these people's necks. And I think that's where the problem is lying. That's where there's so much, so much pushback against this Black Lives Matter movement at this moment, is the mere fact that we're just not taking it anymore. We're not going to stand by and just allow the same things to happen over and over and over again. And I think it really makes them mad, being the fact that the KHive is giving them all of this pushback. The fact that we come with receipts, we don't just actually here's the title of an article, I'm going to send it to you, and I pray that you don't open it and read it, for us to actually hit you back with the real facts. And I think that's where the real problem is. And the fact that we're actually doing this with somebody like Kamala Harris, who's a very established, very powerful Black woman, it just makes it really much worse, for them at least. But one thing I want to say is that with all that was going on, especially as it pertains to the KHive, and I think you said this, I think in your podcast earlier, Reese, is that nobody's calling. We never complained to Bernie Sanders. We never complained to Elizabeth Warren about their fan base. We never held them responsible for what their supporters are doing. We're not sending out no dissertation. We're not calling the manager. So I don't understand why you guys are so threatened by us actually correcting you. No, I don't recall us sending death threats. I just recall us actually calling you out for your bullshit. This is what the fuck it is. Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
Well, it's the same thing with Kamala correctly pointing out Biden's past with busing. People are very unaccustomed to a Black woman, for instance, speaking truth, and people are very unaccustomed to a Black woman being defended. Black women are the least protected and the most disdained Black people in the country. I don't want to say world, that might be an overstatement, or maybe not, but people are very unaccustomed to a Black woman being protected in the way that we protect Kamala. And so it's very jarring to them, because people protect Bernie with this zeal. People protect Warren. They're not as effective, but they try to. And yet when it comes to Kamala, it's a little bit more of an issue. But you know what? If they're complaining, that means we're doing something right, because nobody can challenge the veracity of our challenge. All they can do is complain about the tone. And the tone is irrelevant. Get your facts straight. That's the problem. You get your facts straight, you don't have to worry about even tone even coming up in there. You get some yellow hearts and you don't get the yellow bees. Okay, so you choose which energy that you want to attract with how you put the information out there. It's completely up to you.
But here's the thing: the tone is warranted, because for years, and a lot of people come at me saying, I'm just this angry person. Child, I'm the nicest person. I'm fun when I can be. But the reason why I'm so angry is the mere fact that I was raised by a Black woman. So when I'm seeing somebody come for a Black woman who's worked their ass off to get to where they're at, and fighting for me, the average day American, speaking to my issues, unlike everybody else. Because student loan debt is great and all that other stuff, but what about the average American, a person who's literally living paycheck to paycheck, who's literally waiting, literally needs a little bit more help than what's going on? Because I already make $15 an hour. That ain't enough. So I just want to understand, like, why I'm angry is because it's been so long that nobody's ever defended Black women. Nobody's ever fought for me. Nobody's actually stood up for me. Nobody's actually advocated for the issues that affect my life. And when I see Kamala Harris doing that, and being the fact that she's got all this long list of receipts that shows that everything that she says she's going to do, she's done it. Why would I not be upset that you're lying on her record? Because this sets the precedent for that when any woman, because I've already talked to, I'm sorry, I'm just going to shout out Brittany Oliver. I had a live with her a few days ago. She said that she's thinking about running for Congress, but she felt discouraged because of the treatment of Kamala Harris. She said that, I wanted to run, but if Kamala Harris with this amount of resume, and I don't even match that, imagine what they're going to do to me. So you set the precedent to what could happen to the next woman. So that's why I'm angry. I'm angry for my nieces. I'm angry for my mother. I'm angry for my grandmother, the people who literally paved the way so that way I could even have a voice. So that's the reason why I'm angry. It's just enough at this point. I can be nice of all I want to be about it, but you don't hear me unless I'm yelling.
I mean, you said it right there. One thing I wanted to mention, though, man, I wish Shirley Chisholm needed Twitter. I said that they would have been a very, very different race back then. First of all, if you do your research on Shirley Chisholm, she like, I feel like Reese cut from the same cloth because she lets you know where to go.
Y'all seen my meme of Reese Chisholm?
Listen, I think you got a little bit of spirit in you. It may have been that. Cause guess what, man? I went back and saw some old clips. Well, she ain't worried about it. I'm going to speak my mind. And what? All right, then. So if she had a Twitter, I think it would have been a much different world. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, Kamala Harris is certainly the preparation. That's where my confidence comes into. So when she's chosen, I understand there's other folk and they try to, I feel like it's smoke and mirrors. Reese, I feel you though. You're not letting up. I'm not getting down. But it's the preparation that she has, which is why I feel like we need to be prepared as well. So whenever I put information out, especially when it comes to a video, I want you bobbing your head. I want you to laugh. But I need to make sure I'm prepared with the information I'm giving so that you can hit back when people start to lie and stuff. Like this tech article that I'm really this close to saying something about. But in any regard, also, I got to shout out Maya. I love the vintage 80s, just look. That is so, all right, I'm going to say this. Cosby Show, but without Bill Cosby there. Is that so he's not there? Okay? So look, I just want you, so it's just Claire, you're Denise.
That's called A Different World.
Here we go, A Different World. Okay, so you're Denise's friend her freshman year at Hillman. All right.
But, Jasmine. Wow, I forgot her name.
No, not Jasmine Guy.
Jasmine Guy. Whitney.
No, you're a completely new character. Get with me. You were there. Maybe you were there for like orientation. It was like, no, I'm transferring to, Clark, Atlanta, whatever the case. Anyway, but yeah, that I just shot that out there. All right, y'all. Look, that's another live from KHive. We here and we did it big. You know how we come correct anytime. Lupe Fiasco said, "Come correct as a porn star." Anyway, don't worry about that. It's Chicago. I was looking right at Sydney when I said it because it's Chicago. First thing that came up. I'm Drew Comments. Yo, we've been here on the panel with your boy Kenny, Too Raw, Too Real, Sydney, Maya Contreras, Black Woman Views, aka Reese. Shout out to Heather Rose Gold. We know how it do, and we gonna go and take off. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.